Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to Vinyl Junkie Record Shop. My name is Mike, and I have got a video today that is going to show you a slew, and I mean a slew, a lot of used vinyl that I have picked up over the last few weeks. Been kind of going on a craze of crate digging. That's the joy of record shopping and record collecting. It is an addiction. Now, one of the things that I have shown in the past is that I am not like one of these top-end collectors that everything I have to have is high quality, near mint, and expensive. I like to stack my record room with as much stuff as I can find, and one of my very favorite things to do is go through bargain bins, and I search for the legit dollar bins that are still left in some of the record stores across the country. Because of the rising costs of inflation and everything else, dollar bins are now usually $3 bins. And that was Sammy barking at the next door neighbor who just got home. So hopefully he will stop that. We'll give him a chance to knock that off. If he doesn't, I'll put him outside. Shut the door. Sammy, I'm working here. I'm going to go ahead and shut this door. He'll probably keep barking in the background, but I don't know what's worse, his barking or one of these records that I'm playing that unfortunately doesn't sound that great, but that's the risk you run with these used records. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I like to fill my record room with as much as possible, so I like to do that without breaking the bank. So I'm always looking for the bargain bins and things that I can pick up. If I can pick up something that is not near mint anymore, it's been beat up a little bit, but it still plays and sounds decent, that works for me. So this all kind of started. I showed a video last week or so where I went to Karma Records in Indianapolis, and I found a bunch of stuff in a dollar bin. Found some stuff that I really was amazed that I would find. And as with almost every record store expedition, you go and you find that you leave something behind. And I will tell everyone, most of you probably know, the record that you do not buy today is the record that will be gone tomorrow, in most instances. But sometimes you think, I should have picked that up, and you go back and you're lucky enough to find what you were looking for. So I left at least one in the bargain bin that I wished I had picked up. As soon as I left the store and was halfway home, I thought, man, I really wish I had gotten that one. So I went back a couple days later to see if it was there. Of course, it was, luckily, but you always seem to find a few other things that you might have caught your eye that you left behind also. So that's where this all kind of started. I went back to Karma, and I picked up a couple things that I had in hand the first time and put back in the bins. We'll start with this one. Now, I was like a good story, too. And when I was walking around in the shop, the music was playing, and I thought, that sounds remarkably like Raven. So I asked the guy, hey, why does that sound like Raven? Because it didn't sound like a Raven song. It sounded, Raven was like a new wave of British heavy metal band, right? But this sounded like Raven singing a song that they didn't write. But I asked the guy, I said, hey, why does that sound like Raven? And he said, because it is. And it was Raven. And it was a song from a old compilation album called From the Vault, because Raven was on Megaforce Records when they broke here in the United States. And anyway, I just thought that was funny that, okay, I recognized him, that's Raven. And one of the albums that I had looked at on the previous trip was a classic live album from back in the 80s. This is Raven, Live at the Inferno. This was a barn burner of a live album back in the new wave of British heavy metal days. And why I didn't snatch this up, I don't know. But I just thought that was kind of funny since, Raven was playing, and Raven was one of the albums I left behind, and of course I promptly did pick it up this time. Great double live album. Got all their early hits on it. Yeah, this was released on Megaforce Records, distributed by the Important label. And all these Megaforce import albums were albums that were kind of hard to get back in the day. And this Karma record store was really the place where I picked up a lot of those early 80s import albums from bands from Europe, the metal bands that were starting that new wave of British heavy metal. Anyway, long story. great album, Raven Live at the Inferno. Another live album that was in my hands, and I had owned this before, but it didn't survive the great vinyl purge of when I had to move and I couldn't take a lot of my vinyl with me. I had this on CD, so I got rid of the vinyl stupidly. But this is Eagles live, released in 1980 on Elektra. Great album, great songs, great collection. This album it's part of the reason I wanted to get it back is just all the stuff that you get with it. I'm not going to unfold it, but it has this, still has like the original poster, double-sided poster that opens up, and all the photos and the inside liners, and the sleeves are still in real good shape. So this album is in really, really good shape, and I'm glad I found it again for a really good price. So yeah, decided I would go ahead and pick it up while I was there. And then, let me get this put back to there. All right. And then what I really wanted to find, what I went back for was this album from a Canadian band. I kind of call them the classic example of Canadian yacht rock. But this is the band Chilliwack. And this album is Wanna Be a Star. This album contained their one big American hit, which was My Girl. There's the band on the back. This is a great record, man. This has got some really good stuff. Chilliwack is one of those bands that played kind of an adult contemporary type of rock, yacht rock. But they really had at times a real punchy guitar sound. And there's some great guitar work on this album, especially on the title track, So You Want to Be a Star. And Brian McLeod was the guy that was in the band at this time. The brainchild of a guy named Bob, is it Bob Henderson? Or Bill, I'm sorry, Bill Henderson. There's the band right there. But Brian McLeod, this guy, what's that one there? He would go on to do a lot of different things in Canadian hard rock. I went on to form a band called the Headpins, and I had that album out. Oh, I just happened to have it right here. I got it out because I was working on putting together like a Canadian rock video, some of my favorite Canadian bands. But he went on to form this band, Headpins, after he left Chilliwack. But there's like a string of 3 records that he appears on these Chilliwack albums that gave them a kind of a more modern 80s rock sound. So this is just really great record. Found it in the bargain bin. That's where you can probably find it anymore these days. But I would highly recommend, if you see this, snatch it up. Chilliwack, Wanna Be a Star. And then, of course, I had to pick up a couple of other things. Again, I love stories. My daughter is finishing up her culinary school externship in Aspen, Colorado, and she texted me the other day, and she was so excited because John Oates came into their restaurant. I thought I've done well. I've raised a daughter that knows who John Oates is. So I found this. This is Hall & Oates H2O. This is the follow-up to Private Eyes. Forget what year this was released. But the Hall & Oates had a string of really successful R&B, pop rock albums in the 80s. This was one of them. Great album. Maneater, I think, is the big single off of this song. But figured I'd pick that up. I don't have that on any other format. Never had that, so it was a good pickup. And then always had to pick up something from the dollar bin. And I looked again. And this one I left behind the time before. But what drew the band is called Dirty Tricks. The album's called Nightman. Somebody just showed a Dirty Tricks album on a video they did here that I watched recently. What drew my attention to this was it was produced by Roger Bain, who was involved with a lot of European hard rock bands back in the 70s. And what you're going to get here is just your basic 70s European bar hard rock bar band kind of sound here. It's really nothing great, but it's pretty solid. And for $1, it's one of those things you find in the dollar bin that make you go, hey, this is why I love doing what I do, collecting records and finding, I not necessarily a gem, but a nice quality stone for $1 to put in the collection. All right, there we go. So that was going back to Karma. Then I went to Half Price Books a few days later and just found one thing. Well, I saw a couple, picked up one. I found an album that has been on my list of things to get for quite a while. I don't see this out very often, so of course I snatched it up. It plays okay. I wish it was a little better quality, but I'll take it. This is Out of Order by Rod Stewart, released in 1988, I believe. I think 1988. Anyway, I absolutely love this album. This I think, I think this is probably my favorite Rod Stewart album, just because of when it came out and what was going on in my life when this album did come out, and I kind of attached that to those memories. But I love this, and it's another thing I like about this album is it featured Andy Taylor on guitar and some songwriting. I've always thought Andy Taylor was a great guitarist, and this has got some great songs in it. On it, Lost in You, Dynamite, Lethal Dose of Love, Forever Young, Crazy About Her. Really great album, great Rod Stewart album. I had only had it on cassette, and then I can't even find that. I don't know what happened to it. And I never had it on CD, never had it on vinyl, obviously. So super, super excited to find that. So while I was there, I saw another one that I didn't pick up. I thought, I probably ought to go back and see if it's still there. So I went back to see if it was there a couple days later. Sure enough, it was, and that was this one, Big Country, The Seer. This was released in 1986. This was a couple albums away from their debut in America. What was the name of it? I'm not coming up with the name. But their debut had the hit single In a Big Country and made kind of a bit of a splash. They have a unique sound. They're from Scotland, so they have kind of that Scottish sound that you might hear in. Well, these bands aren't from Scotland, but if you like U2, maybe even I'd even say some of the Police's material. That you would like this sound of Big Country. This is a really good record. Title track, The Seer, features Kate Bush singing with the band. But yeah, I was happy that they still had this. And of course, I had to do some more crate digging while I was there, and that's kind of the mother lode and the crux of this particular video. So everything I'm going to show you now was stuff that I found in the bargain bins at Half Price Books. And here we go. In no particular order, I'm just going to kind of show most of them. Or I'm going to show all of them. This one, man, what a gem this one is. This is West, Bruce, and Lang with Why Don't You? From 1972. And this is essentially Mountain switching out on bass. You have Jack Bruce, who played in Cream, and he's came over and basically replaced Felix Pappalardi, who produced Cream's Disraeli Gears. More to follow there on that. But anyway, yeah. So you have Leslie West and Corky Lang from Mountain, and then Jack Bruce comes over from Cream, and they form this power trio. And this is just good old-fashioned 70s hard rock. Really, really great stuff. Found this for a couple bucks. Couldn't really believe that, to be honest. But yeah, I love Leslie West, underrated guitar player. His work with Mountain is phenomenal. But yeah, great find. Another great find. Been on the hunt for this one for years. One of my famous stories, or favorite stories, I guess. We all kind of joke, and I've seen some videos about shopping for records at Goodwill. I went to Goodwill. The first time I ever looked at a Goodwill for records, I found this, and I could not believe it. And I didn't want to look at the record because I figured it would be all beat up and crappy. But when I finally did pull the record out and look at it, it wasn't even that record. It was some different record that had gotten a sleeve. I was really disappointed. But this is Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush Live. This is from 1978. Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush, Canadian guitar wizard. I had this on cassette when I was a kid. I found the cassette like at a Woolworth dime store in the bargain section when they had bargain cassettes. And I just, man, I played that and played that and played that. One of my favorite um, albums back in the day. This has got some really, really good stuff on it. The answer, the lead off track, the answer, Dragonfly with King Bee. It's got some covers, Johnny Be Good. It's got a cover of Purple Haze, but also has the world anthem on here. Really, really good live album from another underrated guitar player, Frank Marino, and his band Mahogany Rush. All right, had to pick this one up too. I remember this one from back in the day. This was Michael Bolton's hard rock album, his solo album debut. Michael Bolton, well known for his adult contemporary hits, but he had kind of a 80s hard rock vibe as well. He's got a great voice. But this featured Michael and then a lot of guitar work from Bob Kulick, who was in Bruce Kulick's brother. Bruce would go on and play for Kiss. But Bob and Bruce, and they've been involved in all kinds of different projects throughout the years. So if anytime you see something with that Bob or Bruce Kulick name on it, it's gonna be pretty decent. But Bolton was in a hard rock band called Blackjack, and I want to say Bruce was the guitar player in that band, and then Bob went on to play in a 80s hard rock band called Balance. But again, I'm digressing. Anyway, the point of this is this was Michael Bolton's rock album. Had a hit. Fool's Game was kind of like the radio hit. Bon Jovi-ish style 80s hard rock. Thought that was worth a pickup. This is kind of more of a local find. This is a band called Limousine, and it featured a couple guys from Indiana. Well, it's an Indiana band, but Carl Story was the main guy in this band, and I believe he's from Muncie, Indiana. But Carl and a guy named John Casella were in this band, and John Casella went on to play for John Cougar Mellencamp. So a lot of Central Indiana ties to this. Carl Story would go on to be in the Faith Band, and you see a lot of those albums around record stores here in Central Indiana. I had never seen this one, so I thought I would just go ahead and pick it up. Pretty fun 70s kind of, radio rock. Nothing, it's nothing groundbreaking or exceptional, but like I said, I had never seen this before, so I thought that was worthy of a pickup. Okay, I had heard of this band. They had one big hit. I can't remember now what the name of that hit was, but this is Blues Image. The cover's kind of beat up here. The record's in okay shape. But they were kind of described as a blues band that had a Cuban and Latin influence. Not like, Santana, because it doesn't sound like Santana. That's what I think of when I think of Latin and Cuban blues music. But it's got some really good songs on it, good guitar work. If you like blues, I think you'd probably like Blues Image. But I don't see this one very often, and again, the cover's kind of beat up, but plays okay. Figured I'd grab that one. Here's another one, kind of the same thing. I don't see this one a whole lot. This is the American cover. This is Moontan by Golden Earring, and this, of course, has Radar Love on it, the band's biggest hit in this country. Not a bad record. Golden Earring didn't really make much of a splash in this country, but Radar Love is that's a classic song. Most people know that. And I figured I would just go ahead and pick up this album. I'm on the look for Cut, if I can find it. That had Twilight Zone, was kind of another big hit for the band in the U.S. So yeah, that's on my list to find somewhere one of these days. But yeah, this was from '74, Golden Earring, Moontan. Found this one. This is Never a Dull Moment by Rod Stewart. It's not in bad shape, really. Not one of my favorite classic Rod Stewart albums, but it's got some really good songs on it. You Wear It Well being the big hit. Angel, cover of Twisting the Night Away. So I figured that was well worth a pickup. Anything Rod Stewart. This one I thought was interesting. I had seen this one before and thought this was really interesting artwork and had no idea who or what it was. And I'm still not sure I'm pronouncing everything correctly. But this is, see, the album is called Elias of Sun Hillo. Anyway, it's the first solo album. I believe it was the first solo album from Jon Anderson of Yes. And I really just, I'm not familiar with this at all. I've not heard it. I'm not familiar with the story or any of that. But the packaging on this just is really neat and just looked like something that would be an interesting listen. I mean, I love Yes. I like prog rock. So there's no reason to not think that I won't enjoy the story and music on here. I believe that John plays most of the instruments on this album, but it's still in pretty decent shape. And like I said, it's got some interesting artwork. It's kind of this like sci-fi themed about some realm, some different world. But yeah, Elias of Sun Hillo from Jon Anderson of Yes. This one, pretty interesting. A couple of interesting things about this. Now, I had seen another video recently where the gentleman mentioned he had picked up an album from this band. This is Babe Ruth with First Base. And the most interesting thing I think about this particular album cut is the album artwork, and that is Roger Dean. So Roger Dean, from Yes, did some work on some Yes albums, and two of my favorite Uriah Heep albums, Demons and Wizards, and then The Magician's Birthday. But you can always kind of tell, I hate to say that it didn't jump out at me immediately when I first saw this, but the more I looked at it, I thought, boy, that looks familiar, and then saw that, yeah, that's Roger Dean. This is an interesting band. They play like a blues infused 70s prog rock, but some really good stuff on here. This Jenny Han, man, she's a vocal powerhouse. This is a good record. Babe Ruth, First Base. Then I saw this. I did not know who this was, but I do know. When I saw that it was Robbie Krieger and John Densmore. This is an album called Butts Band. I have no idea why. But this is a project that they were on after, post Doors. And there's the other guys in the band. Record's not in the sleeve's not in the greatest shape, or the jacket's not in the greatest shape, but the record plays okay. I had never, ever heard of this band or heard that Robbie and John had done this project after the Doors. It's on a record label that I'm not even familiar with, Blue Thumb Records. And there's the Blue Thumb print on it. So yeah, this was something that was new to me. It's obviously, I don't want to compare this at all to the Doors, but it's got some decent stuff on it, as you'd expect. Anything that's got material from Robbie Krieger and John Densmore. So very excited to have found this for the first time. I've never seen this before. I'd never heard of it before. And that was, again, pretty interesting pickup to do some research and figure out who's on it and what it really is. And again, $2. Pretty good find, I thought. All right. Most of you probably know this one. This is Don Henley's first solo effort, I Can't Stand Still. Probably most famous for Dirty Laundry. Love that song to this day, love that song. This is a really good album. I don't think it's as good as his material with the Eagles. There are some good songs on here. There are some that you know, I don't know, kind of maybe a little boring, but overall a really good solo album. Certainly well worth the $2 pickup. All right, yeah, what we got here? Blood Rock with Passage. Blood Rock was a 70s hard rock band that was kind of under the radar. It's the back cover. I really like the artwork on this. Yeah, this album cover's kind of faded and not real vibrant anymore, but that artwork is really cool. This saw the band kind of getting more away from the 70s hard boogie, hard rock kind of sound, and doing more like, sounding more like Jethro Tull and adding some more prog elements. This guy named Warren Ham did vocals, flute, sax, and harmonica, and gave that kind of element and flavor to this stuff. 1972 is when this came out. Blood Rock is a band that I've heard of. Never had any of their albums, and this is the first one from them. Okay, and then found on A&M Records from 1969, before I was born. This is Procol Harum with A Salty Dog, and Procol Harum, probably famous for, well, their song, Whiter Shade of Pale. But Robin Trower, it was the guitarist for this band, and he's very well known and respected. I don't have a lot of his material. This is the only Procol Harum album that I've ever owned. This is a good record. It's got some really good guitar work on it, courtesy of Mr. Trower. Kind of a prog-ish, bluesy based kind of English rock. Yeah, I would recommend this. I think this is probably their most well-known album. And it was well worth the pickup. Another one that I had not ever seen before. I didn't know this existed. Shame on me. But this is Carlos Santana and Buddy Miles live. There's Carlos and there's Buddy. There is the gatefold, and then this has just got some really, really good stuff on it. This was recorded in Hawaii in a crater. I forget the name of it. But got really great performances. I guess when doing my research on this album, there was some controversy that the master tapes from when this was recorded either got destroyed or lost or something, and that they had to recreate a lot of this in the studio. I don't know about that, but I do know that this has got some great performances on it. It's got a version of Evil Ways, which is a bit different than what I'm used to hearing from Santana's regular band. And then side 2 is like a 25-minute jam, free form funkified filth. So that sounds pretty tasty. But this is a really nice album, and I had never known it existed, never heard of it, didn't know it was out there. I'm not the hugest Carlos Santana fan, but that was kind of a no-brainer. Also, all these albums were like $3 or less. Most of them were a couple bucks. And then the last one from this stack I want to show. This is Kansas in the Spirit of Things. This was from 1988. Not a real well-known album from Kansas. It didn't have a hit single on it. But honestly, this album is really good. It's got some really good guitar work on it, and it's what you expect from Kansas. It's kind of a concept piece about a small town in the Midwest that was wiped out by a flood. I say loosely, kind of a loose concept, but this has not the classic band. Kerry Livgren is not on these albums, but you still had Richard Williams, Steve Walsh, Steve Morse added guitar work on this record. Another well-known guitarist, and then Billy Greer and Phil Ehart, kind of the regular cast of Kansas. If you like Kansas, you'd like this. I think I had this on a cassette a long time ago. But it's not an album that I played very often or went to very often. It's nice though. It's got some really good things on it. It's well worth the spin, and again, it was well worth a few dollars to pick up. All right, so that was Half Price Books, and then I took a couple days off. I'm gonna drink here. Took a couple days off, and then of course had to go back, and I went back. I went back one night, and I found by itself. I just found this in the bin. This is Boz Scaggs' Silk Degrees. This is one of this is Boz's most popular album, released in '76. This has Lido Shuffle on it, was the big hit. But Jump Street is another great song on this album. Boz Scaggs, I'd classify him as classic yacht rock, R&B flavored, easy listening kind of rock. Great album. And then I went back a couple days ago and found these. Those were from Half Price Books. And then I went back to the other Carmel location because I hadn't been to it in a couple weeks. And I was looking specifically wanted to find something from JoJo Gunn. And lo and behold, I found one. This is their debut album from 1970. What was it? 1972. This is a band that was formed by a couple of guys that left the band Spirit and then formed this band JoJo Gunn. And this is early 70s boogie rock, hard rock, good stuff, really good stuff. I had seen someone mention JoJo Gunn a while back, was not familiar with them or who they even were, and then I started to do a little research on them and thought, man, those are some albums I'd like to have. This is their debut. They've got, I think they released 3 other studio albums after this, so I'll be on the hunt for anything JoJo Gunn. That's their debut, pretty good stuff. Then I found this one. This was 99 cents. This album looks in mint condition. This is the World Saxophone Quartet, plays Duke Ellington. Again, I mentioned earlier that I'm a sax player, and I like anything related to the saxophone. These are just all the music on here is created by 4 saxophones, and it's really, really good stuff. Putting their kind of take on classic Duke Ellington tunes. We came up with this one. This was a great album by the Little River Band. This had their big hit Reminiscing on it. And also had Lady, was one of the big songs I remember from this band. But this album's in really great shape. Deep cut from here that great song, Red-Headed Wildflower. What a great song that is on this Little River Band album, Sleep Catcher. I guess that's a reference to someone who played this gambling game, a popular Australian gambling game. This kind of the kings of Australian yacht rock. They had a lot of great hits, big hits back in the 70s over 3 or 4 albums. And I think I have, this was one of them that I needed that had some of those big LRB hits on them. But Lady was a song I listened to a lot back in the day. And then Reminiscing, again, good stuff. Found this one on the Casablanca label. This is Giants, Thanks for the Music. And I guess the Ron Elliott played rhythm guitar on here, and he was in, I can't think of the name of the band. Some band that had some moderate success. But the other guy on here, Bruce Gary, that played the drums, would go on to be the drummer for The Knack. So I thought that was pretty interesting. There's nothing remarkable on here. There's a few good tracks. It's kind of, 70s barroom rock, blues rock. It's nothing stellar, but it's not crap either, and it was well worth a couple bucks. And one thing I forgot to mention, I was going to show this one. I picked this up in that with all those that I got at half price books, and a couple lessons. I mentioned that one time I looked in at Goodwill. I looked at the record in the jacket, and it turned out not to be that record. I always, to say always, but I try to look at the records before I buy them. And I either looked at this one and didn't pay real close attention to it. There's no jacket, there's no interliner. But I found this one by a band called the Blues Magoos. This album is called Electric Comic Book. It's kind of a 70s psychedelic kind of rock, 60s, 70s psychedelic rock. And then, I thought, okay, this will be all right. I took it out to play it, and it's not Blues Magoos. Oddly enough, though, this record is not in great shape at all. But it's Cream, Disraeli Gears. Legendary rock album. I mentioned Cream earlier with the Bruce Lang and West album, and this is a legendary record. And again, if this was in better shape, I'd have been thrilled to have it, even in a different jacket. But yeah, always check the albums, make sure you're getting what you're supposed to be getting. One I didn't mention this one because it was playing in the background, or kind of playing. It was beat up pretty bad. It doesn't play the best. I'm a little disappointed in that, but I had never heard of this band, never seen this before. This is called Fat Water, and they were a psychedelic blues rock kind of based outfit out of Chicago. It's from 1970 something or other. But it had it's got some good songs on it. Like I said, it doesn't play very well at all. It's got some skips and cracks and things like that. But that'll happen sometimes when you go to the dollar bin. You're not sure what you're going to get. Now, every once in a while, you do find something that you classify as an absolute gem, and that's going to bring me to closing this one out. I just saw this. It caught my eye. The title of the record caught my eye. So you pull it out, set it to the side so you can look at it later. And then I got to looking at the back of it, and there are a few things that I noticed about this that should have really jumped out at me right away. I'm going to go ahead and show you the album. It is Illusion. The title is I Like It Loud. I'm not a super great fan of that album cover, but that drew my attention to it. So I looked at the back, and then the first thing I noticed was it was produced by Jeff Glicksman. Now, Jeff Glicksman was involved with a lot of really good 80s hard rock albums. He's been involved with a lot of really great projects over the years. And that's really I kind of left it at that. I didn't look throughout too much more. I looked at some of the guys in the band, and the dead giveaway should have been the one-word name for their guitar player, Moses. Again, I wasn't really thinking very critically when I was looking at this. And then, had I looked deeper down into the liner notes, at the very bottom, the next to last name mentioned on here in their thanks is BB Queen. And when you put it all together, BB Queen is the nickname of Barry Borden, who played drums for a band called Mother's Finest, who was from Atlanta. And sure enough, that is where Illusion is from. And Moses on guitar turns out to be the legendary Gary Moses Mo Moore from Mother's Finest. Mother's Finest Mother's Finest is responsible for one of my very favorite and underrated albums of all time, and I've shown that before. Iron Age is the album. It's a straight hard rock album released in 1981. If you've never heard of that, do yourself a favor and go pick it up. But imagine my surprise when it occurred to me that this $99, maybe $2, this album that I found is a solid, to me, a real gem. I'd never seen it before. I didn't know it existed. I didn't even know that Moses was in this band. But this is a traditional 80s hard rock band out of Atlanta. fronted by Jay Willard, who I believe is Gary's brother. And some of the photos I've seen, but they look alike, and I believe they're brothers. But I'm not a expert historian on them or the band. But anyway, the mere fact that this was associated with Moses Moe and Mother's Finest, which is a band I always kind of tout as one of the more underrated bands, American rock bands ever. This just to me is an absolute gem. The songs on it are good. They've got some really good songs on it. If you're into 80s hard rock, Jay Willard has a great sounding hard rock voice. And I think if you're into things like, Tesla, you would dig this. It's not real hair band sounding. It's kind of more not necessarily blues based, but it's not really it's not like Poison or Rat or anything like that. But yeah, absolute gem of a find. So happy that I found this on one of those record store expeditions where you just never know what you're going to find in the bargain bin. You got to go through a lot of junk, but sometimes you really do find a legitimate gem, and that's how I'd classify this one. So that was the pick of the litter for all of those, and man, whew, that's an awful lot of stuff. But that's what happens when you get kind of on a roll, when you go record store shopping and crate digging, and every time you go back, there's something a little bit different. So that's why we do what we do, right? So if you're still with me, I appreciate you staying all this time. I know this has been kind of a long one. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. If you've been here before, I appreciate you coming back again. Hit like and subscribe for me. Trying to get the subscribers up. If I'm getting closer to 500, and if I ever hit 500, I'll say I can get maybe close to 1,000. But I know there's maybe about 100 views I get on most of my videos. So I know that some of you out there are watching what I do, and I appreciate that. I'd like to get more feedback from everybody, so feel free to leave a comment, hit me up, and I'd like to get more involved with some of you other guys in the community. That's something I think I would really enjoy doing. Maybe a collaboration video here and there. So if any of you like doing that and you're looking for someone to maybe do one of those with, reach out to me. Send me a message, leave a comment, hit me up, and I'd certainly be excited and on board to do something like that. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.